Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome to a new Total War Warhammer 2 guide. Today we are looking at the Slan Light version. If you can't afford a big fat bloaty toad, or you just can't be asked to get off his arse, then the Skink Priests is where you want to go. Our little feathered friends who look amazing, again, lovely models. They come in two different flavours, and we're going to go through the magic of each one, see what we think of it, compare the two. I imagine the all the sort of the normal stats will be identical. That'd be weird if they weren't. Yes, they are identical. So let's have a quick look. So the Skink Priests are spellcasters, meaning they cast spells. Just in case you are stupid. And then they're both aquatic, so that means that they can go through shallow water and fight and move in shallow water because, you know, they love a bit of water, apparently. And that goes for both. So we have one Skink Priest with the Beast's Law of Magic and the other Skink Priest with the Heaven's Law of Magic. So we'll go through each one and see what we make of it. So as hero characters, they both get missile resistance 15%. They both get encouraged with that leadership boost. They can both hide in a forest because they're scary skinks that are scared of everything. So this, the beastie guy has Wild Heart, which is an augment of the winds, and it's constant around himself and active if he's casting a spell. It increases power reserves and improvement to power recharge rate. So this is like really good if you have a Slan and one of these dudes, so you can cast a lot of spells. Very, very nice. And then he has the Cold-Blooded, which is a regeneration spell. It does replenish the hit points of combatants, but it does debuff them while it's doing so. So it's best to use... You can use it in a fight, but it's best to use it like once your Saurus warriors have crushed a unit, they've lost maybe half their numbers. Give them some regeneration loving, and they'll love you forever. And then we've got Wissen's Wild Form, which is an augment spell, lasts for 21 seconds. You can cast it on yourself or an ally, and it's just a basic buff to your weapon damage and armor. Good range of 200 meters. We've got the Flock of Doom, which is a direct damage spell. Only acts on targets when in the area of the direct damage spell, and it lasts for 7 seconds. Shorter range of 100 meters, but you can cast it on an enemy unit or on the ground, so you can sort of work out where they're going to be headed. And it's got a 30-meter sort of radius of this thing. Causes damage to combatants. Strong versus multiple combatants. High chance opponent will resist damage. Great. And it's weak versus a single combatant. So it's basically for, you know, the rank and file troops to do a bit of damage. I think more so than the damage, it more just sort of disrupts the enemy line. This is a better spell for. It only costs 6, so it's not too bad in the cost front. Next, we've got the Amber Spear, which is a magic missile. So this basically hits an enemy that's got good armor piercing damage, good penetration, effective at all ranges, and it can hit your own dudes. But if you're in the clear, this is, you know, you could use this against single heavily armoured dudes or heavily armoured elite troops is always a good way to use this. Then we've got Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, which casts on a self-round, lasts for 50 seconds, which is great. It does cost 7. Good against armour piercing damage, gives you plus speed and physical resistance. So this is really good for manoeuvring your enemy around the battlefield. If you want to get a flank charge off, you can get round, and physical resistance is always nice in a fight, so that's good. So it has sort of two good uses. Then we've got the Curse of Anrahair. I don't know how to spell half this stuff. Pronounce. I know how to spell it. It's written there. And this is a hex spell. Instant. It's an instant one, which not many are. 33 seconds it lasts, and it's basically a big fat debuff. Accurate, minus 6% accuracy is really good. If you're getting peppered by those bastard high elves, then this is a really nice spell to use. It's got good range of 200. And then we have the Transformation of Kadoon. It should be Kadoon. Sounds better. Augment. Only got a 60-meter range, so really short range. And this is why I like using the Pterodons for my skink heroes, because you can maneuver around the battlefield much, much easier. So basically, you can't use if your army is full or climbing. Very specific. Cannot target if climbing or mental. Blah, blah, blah. Right, it spawns. It doesn't matter. It spawns a fucking manticore. That's all you need to know. It does cost 21 power, which is mental. But it's pretty handy, as you'd imagine, summoning a manticore. If you don't know what a manticore is, Google it. Scary shit. It does degrade over time and spawns until spawned unit fights in this battle only, so you don't get to carry it over to the next fights and stuff like this. This is really good for like the surprise element of it, of course, but also if you get cornered yourself, summon a little manticore bodyguard. That'll do ya. Very, very nice spell. Overall, it's a decent set of spell, the Beast's Law. But let's have a look at the heavens. And we've got the same stuff as before. But we've got Rolling Skies, which is an interesting one. So this is very, very interesting. If you're fighting a guy with a lot of flying units, then this is a really good spell. You don't even have to use it. It's constant, and it affects enemies in range, but that range is map-wide. And it basically reduces their speed and melee defense. So very, very nice. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to cast it. It's there all the time. He's got the regeneration ability, just like the other dude. Same as before. But then, so the heavens stuff is this. Harmonic Convergence is the first one. It's a standard buff. As you can see, melee attack and melee defense. We've then got Wind Blast, which is a breath weapon. So it's a cone-shaped breath weapon out from the Skink Priests' arse, I'm presuming. I'm going to call it an arse weapon. It's only got a range of 80 meters, but it causes magical damage in a tear-shaped attack, and it doesn't do a massive amount of damage, but like it says in the description, it disrupts the unit formation. So it's very good, especially when your two armies are about to clash, and just doing that to disrupt it. So it might allow you to get another flank in or get different units into combat. So it's really, really useful. Doesn't, like I said, doesn't do a great deal of damage, but it's still useful. And it's fun. Who doesn't like farting? So, good. Curse of the Midnight Wind. It costs £11. It's a bit more expensive, this one. What's this? Yeah, 8 is Wind Blast. Only acts on targets when in area. It lasts for 25 seconds. And it targets the ground within 200 meters or an enemy unit. And basically a big fat debuff. Especially that armor. The armor is very, very nice. If you don't have much armor piercing stuff, use that to debuff them first before you go in. And then we've got Uranan's Thunderbolt, which is a bombardment spell. Does exactly what it says on the tin, really. You don't pick a unit, you pick a ground, so you have to sort of guesstimate where the units are going to be. They do have a chance to get away. Lasts for a couple of seconds, causes magical damage, and it's basically for getting rid of rank and file troops. You don't really want to use this against heroes and heavily armoured troops and stuff like this. It's better against those big piles of goblins and dirty high elves and stuff like that. And it says it's good against artillery pieces, which is nice, because they are pesky at the best of times. And then we have the Comet of Cassandra, which is another bombardment spell. Lasts for a bit longer. It's got the same range. It costs over twice as much, but it causes magical damage, just like the other one. But it's got a much larger strike area, and it's strong versus multiple units. It's just a big fuck-off version, basically, as opposed to the Thunderbolt. So, and finally, we've got Chain Lighting, which is a vortex spell. Floats about all over the shop. Lasts for 21 seconds. It's a bit short range, 150 meters, but it does do a decent amount of damage, this one. And it's a moving area of effect. So sometimes that's a negative because it's harder to work out harder to hit the enemy, but also it's harder for them to dodge because they have no idea where it's going because it's random and does a decent amount of damage. So let's talk about what we think about those two laws. If I just have a battle with a Skink Priest, both are good, but I probably go heavens. I do like the bombardment spells. I do like a vortex, just more for fun more than anything else. And it's got some decent buffs and debuffs, as you'd expect. If I'm going to have if it's a magic heavy army and I've got a Slan Priest in there, I love having this Wild Heart, which is the increase to the power reserves, improved power recharge rate. Absolutely superb, that is, because that's going to allow the Slan to do his... Because, Slans are the most powerful mages in the entire Warhammer world. So, giving the... just being almost this support mage where you support the Slann, I think is definitely worth it. As for what they can both go on, so obviously both priests can go on the same thing. So it's pterodons, which is a big flying flappy pterodactyl thing, and then you can stick them on a stegodon or an ancient stegodon, which are the big fuck off tanks basically. I much prefer to use my skink heroes on pterodons because I like having that maneuverability when you've got so many different spells that are various different ranges, and you want to be flying over to the left flank to be able to heal some dude, flying over to the right flank to cast a spell. I much prefer that maneuverability. Obviously, you've got to be careful because that's a nice juicy target for high elf archers and stuff like that. But just keeping him behind your backline, buffing the leadership where needed, maybe the weak points. You can use him as a little last gasp, you know, if you just need a flank charge just to get the unit to break, the enemy unit to break, then you could use them. But they are mainly just to sit there and cast spells. And if you stick them on a stegodon or an ancient steg, you want those guys to be in combat. You want those guys charging in with the tusks and murdering and stamping on fools, right? So I don't think having a skink priest on that, although it gives him that protection, you're then putting him in the front line, which I'm not a massive fan about. I'd rather use, if I'm going to have an ancient stegodon with a character on it, I'd rather have a skink chief that, you know, wants to get into the fight a little bit more. No skink wants to fight, really, but I think I'd rather do that than have my mage. Because the trouble is, if you stick him on a stegodon, you're going to be then much more careful with a stegodon, so you're going to lose the purpose of a stegodon, which is this sort of charging in tank monstrous creature dude. So for me, definitely pterodons is the way to go. And I think, like I said, I think I'm going to use Heaven. I think they're both good on their own, but I'm going to use Heavens when I've just got a Skink Priest, and when I've got a Slann, I'm going to use Beasts. But there you go. Let me know what you think. I'm very intrigued to find out what you think of the different magics. I think they're very close, and they usually have the similar sort of debuff, a buff and a debuff, and a magic damage and a vortexy stuff. So there's only sort of smaller differences between the two. Basically, do you want a manticore? Is the question. But let me know in the comments which of these two you prefer. Because I'm sort of still undecided. I'm going to have to do a lot more playtesting before I sort of, you know, work out which I prefer, which works best in the Lizardmen army. There we go, my friends. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to check out all my other Total War Warhammer guides, please feel free to subscribe. Check out all the playlists. I did it for the original game as well, so there's tons to see there. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.